Welcome back to the Ed Brown Show, the award-winning Ed Brown Show. And we are going to continue our conversation with Miko Whitlock. And Miko, so excited to have him here. He is a trainer. We've talked about mindfulness, we've talked about technology, and he's going to help us get back to that work balance, that work-life balance, which we're all looking for. And I wanted to talk to you, Miko, about your 7 steps of reclaiming your time from technology distractions. And we talked about that a little bit before. But I just kind of want to go to like step 1. We need to have a clear vision. How do we get clear?
Yeah, so having a clear vision is perhaps one of the most important things you can do for anything that you do in life, no matter how big or how small. And I remind people that you can't go somewhere if you don't know where you're going. And so you need a vision, right? And for the sake of this conversation, like I use, intention, vision, your why, all of those are sort of synonymous with your vision.
Right.
And, what we talked about earlier in the interview about just sort of taking a moment to get still in the morning before you step out the door. What would make today successful? How can I be of service today? Those are really powerful questions that you can use to just help you to begin to think and reflect deeply about what that actually is.
Right, right. And our second question is, so we're going to set clear and achieve our priorities.
Yeah, so you want to set clear and achievable priorities, and what that means is you have a vision, but that's not enough, right? So around this time of the year, people are thinking about New Year's resolutions, they're thinking about the new year and what they want to do, what they didn't accomplish this year, what they want to do next year and beyond. And they're really good about the vision part, right? And they do the vision board and the resolutions. I'm going to do this, I'm going to lose 40 pounds, and I'm going to make this amount of money, I'm going to get a new job. They can do all these things. But then they sort of put all that in the drawer and sort of hope it magically happens on its own. That's not how life works, right? It requires us to actually identify priorities that are actually aligned with that vision, so that if I ask you, okay, Kamara, you said you wanted to move up in your job, move to the next phase of your career. Okay, so what are you going to do next week that's going to help you to do that, right? So you want to be able to identify your concrete priorities, so then you could then break it down on the month-to-month, the week-to-week basis. Okay, here are the steps I'm actually taking to help me get to that vision.
And how about doing our vision boards and doing our journals to say this is what 2019 is going to look like? So we want to stay mindful and have our intention, but a lot of times you can like revert back to the past and okay, this is happening in the present, and this is what I want to happen next year. And so does that rob us of just being patient and mindful throughout our whole day? So,
to that point, one of the things that's really important is definitely you want to do your vision board, definitely want to write things out. That is, you're setting yourself miles apart from folks that haven't done that. That's an important step. But most people sort of stop there. And what you want to be able to do is, again, set those clear and achievable priorities. But you also want to your point about sort of being robbed of sort of what you need in order to move forward, we have to recognize the role that doubt, that fear, that procrastination, that past failures play in our ability to be able to move forward, right? And so we have to begin to address those issues in a candid way, and we have to begin to also understand that although that might appear real for you, right? That might have been an experience that you had. It doesn't have to get in the way of you actually moving forward.
And that can be challenging. Like, it sounds really simple, but like when you have all that stuff, in your head, and it's like, okay, I want to be mindful, but you know what happened last week, or you know what happened last year.
So I have a series of questions that I give people that particularly are stuck in this particular area when it comes to the fear, the doubt, or the failures. And I, ask these simple questions. And one is, what is fear? For me, fear is, false evidence appearing real, right? So I ask myself, what is it? And I defined it, and then I define whatever the fear is in that moment, right? Oh, I'm gonna bomb this speaking engagement. Okay, so that's the fear. Okay, is that actually real? Is that imagined? Like, did that actually happen, or did you actually imagine that? Okay, and then, okay, what would happen if, despite that fear of public speaking, for example, what if you decided to move forward in spite of that fear? What's the worst that can happen? what's the best that can happen?
Right.
So just asking those questions gives you an opportunity to process, to gain some perspective, and then to reset and to figure out, okay, well, this is sort of what I imagine. It might not be real. How I feel is real in this moment, but it doesn't have to impede me moving forward. Now that I've acknowledged the elephant in the room, now I can figure out, okay, what's the next best step that I can take? So if I do have a fear of public speaking, okay, well, maybe I can hire a speaking coach. Maybe I can join a mastermind group. Maybe I can ask a friend that can give me feedback on, I can record myself and get feedback from a friend. There are all sorts of things we can do, but once we acknowledge the block, right? Yeah.
And that's important, just being able to acknowledge, but even just to have that pop into your head, that's, you're asking yourself the question all the time. You're just asking that question. And so our step 3 is invest your time wisely. And we've talked about that.
Yes. So again, great to have a vision, great to get clear about your priorities, but if your time does not align with those priorities, then it's going to be really hard for you to actually look back on the end of this year or the next year and say that you've actually made any meaningful progress. So it's going to require you to make some trade-offs, though. You're going to have to look at, you're going to look at your calendar and look at how you're spending your time and say, you know what? I say that I want to lose weight. I say that I want to move forward in my career, but I have all this time on my calendar for, I'm watching Netflix, or spending time on social media, or I'm going out to happy hours, or I'm traveling to this place and that place. Well, is that really aligned with where you say you want to go? Can those things be on pause until you actually focus on what you said are the main priorities right now?
Okay, and we want to do it all.
Yeah, so and so I tell people that we can do it all and we can have it all, but we can't do it all and have it all at the same time. So life is about trade-offs. We have a finite amount of time in our days and in our weeks, and that requires us to make a trade-off. Sometimes it's really hard to say, okay, well, for right now, this is what's really important. It doesn't mean that the other people and things aren't important. It just means that right now, your energy, your time, your focus is on these 1 or 2 things.
Right. And we really have to get better at that. But that's why we have Miko to tell us how to do those things. And so our next step is say yes. And just like we can say yes, sometimes we have problems saying no.
Yes.
Yeah.
So saying yes, but saying yes the right way. Making sure that, okay, if you're saying yes, that it actually aligns with your priorities and it aligns with your vision. Saying yes in a way that actually aligns with your time. So someone might ask you, for example, to serve on a board or participate in a committee, and it might very well be aligned with your vision, might be aligned with your priorities, but you look at your calendar and you say, you know what, I really just don't have the time for this right now. I would love to serve on your board. I would love to be a part of your committee, but right now in this season, because I have committed to these priorities, I'm not able to, but maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year, maybe I'll be able to say yes to that commitment.
And that is, we always want to say, oh, it's for a good cause.
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to do it. And then you can become resentful. Because you're like, okay, I committed to this, and why did I commit to this?
Yeah. And so you want to make.
Why couldn't I just say no?
Exactly. So you want to make sure that you're able to be okay with that, and that you're doing good by the person or the organization that's asking you to serve. And there's nothing worse than someone who says yes, but then they're not able to fully show up and commit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our next step is seek support.
Yeah, so none of us do this in isolation. It requires support. That's partly where folks like me come in, but this is where accountability partners come in, having mastermind groups, being a part of a community of like-minded folks, having a friend or family members that are able to support you and hold you accountable. One of the things that's really interesting about what we know about people who live long and really vibrant lives is that those are folks that tend to have robust social networks. And people that have poor outcomes tend to be folks that have smaller networks. They're more lonely, they're more isolated, they're more depressed, and as they get up in age, they're not having the same kind of health outcomes, right? They're not living as long. And so one of the things we recognize as part of the human experience is we're meant to be in company with one another. We're meant to be in community with one another. So it's so important that as you're trying to make these long-lasting changes, that it's not just about you, and it's not just about this moment in time, but it's about how you're connecting with the folks outside of you. It's one of the reasons why when I talk about getting clear about your why, that this is really about, it's not just about you and what makes for success for you, but this is about how you can be of service. How can you use the gift of your life to be of service, of meaning, of impact to the world?
And that's how we become our change agents.
Yes.
And be flexible. And that's something that's really, because you just like, no.
Yes, so being flexible, so I work with high achievers and know-it-alls and folks who are perfectionists, and oftentimes when I talk about this process, and people are like, okay, well I have my vision, I have my priorities, it's like, well that's great, but I want you to be okay with the fact that the way that this shows up in your life might not follow the way you outlined it here, right? That be open to the possibility that it could actually be better than what you could possibly imagine, and that this is just an outline. This is just a guide to help you to move forward and to sustain momentum, but that as you begin to interact with people, as you begin to get clear about your why, that things are going to open up in a way that you couldn't possibly imagine perhaps at this moment in time.
Right, you're absolutely right. And I wanted to talk about, you have 3 tools to help us. I'm gonna say they're tools, but
yes, they
really,
are tools.
It's something that we just should be doing. and I want to talk about the first one. So reclaim your time and setting powerful life goals.
Yes.
And goal setting it's just like you were talking about before, is okay, my goal in 2019 is to do A, B, C, D, D.
Yes.
But how do we do that effectively?
So it starts with the vision. So one of the reasons that I see people not follow through on goals, particularly when it comes to the new year, is the goals are set in isolation, right? It's not set in response to a larger vision. And so for example, you want to lose weight. Okay, well that's great, but why do you want to lose it? Well, so like let's get beyond the I want to lose 40 pounds. Right. What is the experience of losing 40 pounds really about? You want to feel more lovable, right?
Right.
You want more love in your life, and so maybe your larger vision is about being a more loving or being a more compassionate person, or being in the company of more people that are expressing those qualities. And so now when things get tough, when you're going to the gym or you're working with the trainer, you have that larger vision to lean on as an anchor when you're ready to give up, right? Because it's larger than just I want to lose the 40 pounds. That losing the 40 pounds is really connected to something much deeper and longer lasting.
Right, and a lot of what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis is if you're not really setting clear, well, if you're not being honest with yourself, which, that's not always easy, but you kind of know, like deep down inside, okay, this is why I really want to do A, B, or C, but then it's just stepping out on faith and saying, okay, I'm going to do it.
And it's not about the judgment. It's simply about just acknowledging where you are.
Right.
Going back to early in the conversation, we were talking about the fear, the doubt, the procrastination, the past failures. We're not saying to pretend like it doesn't exist. We're not saying that we're not pretending like that's not a painful experience for us.
Right.
What we're saying is let's acknowledge that, because if you can acknowledge it, you actually take away the power from it. And if you take away the power from it, then you can use that energy to actually move forward.
Absolutely, I love that. I love that. And so about we're getting into 2019. I think you're going to release that pretty soon. So we're talking about our life planning guide. Yes.
So the Life Planning Guide is a tool that I release every year, and it's essentially a guide that walks you through how to preview how to review your year. So what went well, what didn't go so well, and to preview in all of the major core areas of your life what you want to do in the next year to create a vision of what does that actually look like. And then there's 7 powerful questions that you can actually answer that are going to help you to identify what your goals are, how you get on track with those, and how you actually stay on track with those. And so this is going beyond just good intentions, but this is actually setting goals that you're actually going to be more likely to actually follow through on. And so it's a process. It's a tool that I release every year. So the new one, people join the email list on my website. I'll be announcing the new one in a couple of days. I also do a free training the last Saturday in December every year. It's live, it's online, and I actually walk people through the training. So it's a 3-hour training. I actually walk you through the guide, and by the time you're done, you have an outline of your life plan and your life goals for the following year.
That's great. That is really good. And you know what I meant to, I wanted to mention before is we met, and to set up a time with you, you're like, let's do virtual tea. How did you come up with that idea? And I was like, of course, you know, I had not tech savvy. I had trouble getting on. Yeah. But I love that. How did you come up with that idea? I love that.
So, you know, when you do the work that I do, lots of people want to pick your brain, and they want to spend time with you. They want to ask you questions. People are naturally curious, but I only have so much time, right? And so I want to be able to maximize that. And if people are willing to meet virtually, you know, particularly since I'm based in one area, but I serve people across the country and across the world. And you know, I love tea, and I know people love their coffee. I love tea, and so I said, well, let's do tea time. Let's have, you know, virtual tea, and you know, we'll spend 30 minutes online. We'll do a video chat, and then we can talk through whatever your challenges are. And then, you know, if I can help you, then I'm happy to do that. If not, then I'm happy to make a referral to someone else. Or if it's just a connection where we're just sort of getting to know each other, that's fine too. Yeah.
And I love that because, of course, I'm not tech savvy. I hadn't done that before, but it was great because we could really talk about ABC and could really dig deep into what a meaningful, mindful conversation is all about.
And using technology. So using technology in a mindful way, right? To build connection, to build community. Yeah.
I love that. And we're going to talk about, and I want you to spend some time talking about mastering the art of work-life balance and getting more done in a digital world.
Yeah.
That's a lot, but tell us how to do it, Miko.
So the core of this is, you know, we create, I think, this artificial separation between our work and our life, right? Okay. The truth is that it's all one bucket, and what we're talking about really is the challenge of integration, right? And you know, it's because all of it is who we are. You can't, you know, spend 8-10 hours a day in one place, in one environment with a group of people and not have that be a part of who you are. Right. Right? So it's our life and our work. And whether it's something where it's your dream job or whether it's something where it's just you're just there to pay the bills, but you're showing up 110%, that's okay too. We're just sort of acknowledging where you are and being okay with that. But what we're talking about is sort of how we integrate those things. So that the technology in particular has made it so that we are connected, it seems like 24/7, right? People are having a hard time figuring out how do you turn off, how do you disconnect? And so the tool that you're talking about, mastering out of work-life balance and getting more done, is really about helping people to get clear about, again, setting that vision and intention about what you want your work life to look like, getting clear about what your priorities are, getting clear about your time and how you're actually spending your time and how you actually want to be spending your time, and the fact that you only have so many hours in a day, so what is that actually going to be focused on? And it's also about identifying not just the time and the priorities for your professional life. Many of us are really good at that. But it's about taking the time to get clear about, okay, well, I know the mission and the vision of my organization, of my company, but I want you to get clear about your personal mission and vision. Because if you can get clear about that, it's going to become easier for you to be able to set those boundaries and say, you know what, I really value my relationship with my partner. I really value my relationship with my kids. I want to be a present parent because my parents weren't as present for me. Right. Or my parents weren't as around because they worked all the time. And as a result of that, I want to show up 110%, but when I'm not here, I want to go to my daughter's soccer game. You know, I want to be supportive of my spouse who's doing a book launch or whatever that is. And so the guide is really helping you to really begin to, just at a very basic level, just start to begin to answer those questions and to really assess, okay, where do I start? What's important to me? And how can I look at the way my life is set up right now, begin to make changes in terms of my work schedule, what I'm focusing on, and also how technology plays a role in that.
And it's so interesting because as I was sharing with you, I went through, okay, this is how, this is my day, this is how it actually is.
Yes.
This is what, you know, this is what my day would look like. But then you start to see you're either overdoing
Yes.
or you're underdoing.
Yes.
And so kind of walk us through that process where, you know what, you give us this guideline where we can just even, we can start to ask ourselves the questions
Yes.
about each of those steps.
Yeah, so that to the point about the timeline, it really starts with, okay, well, how are you spending your time now? So this is just a really rough assessment of typically how you spend your day. And so you can do this by essentially just, I recommend people just sort of, if you keep a calendar or planner, just sort of pick a week and just sort of look to see just roughly how you're spending your time. Like how much time are you at work, right? How much time are you spending with your family and friends? How much time are you spending on social media? You know, binging on shows on Netflix. How much time are you actually spending sleeping? And then how do you actually want to be spending your time? And I recommend people start with these basic things. So you have to eat. So I recommend people, you know, put that on the calendar, particularly if you want people that sort of like, you constantly sort of blow through lunch, right? And the end of the day comes and you're hangry and you're like, what's going on? Like, it's like, well, you didn't eat lunch, right? You sort of worked through that, or you ate lunch at your desk. So like putting that on your calendar and scheduling time away from your desk to actually have lunch, right? And what that does is it's a reminder for you to actually have lunch. And then the second thing it does is, because it's on your calendar, it's less likely that someone's gonna schedule something over that, right? Because it's already there. The time is already blocked off, right? The other thing I recommend is to actually schedule your sleep, right? So how many hours of sleep do you actually need in order to function? I know that varies by person, but by actually putting that on your calendar, so again, you're not scheduling things over that, right? And when you're loading up your calendar with all those things, you can say, you know what, wait, actually, I can't do this day because, like, in order for me to function, like, I need to eat and I need to sleep.
Right.
You know, if your personal goals that you go into the year, you know, you want to do more yoga, you want to do more meditation, you want to spend more time with friends and family, put that on your calendar. So when, you know, those work commitments roll around, you know, you can be in a place where you actually schedule your work around the fact that you're going to your kid's soccer game, the fact that you're going to be leaving work on Thursdays in order to go to yoga, the fact that you're going to be, you know, meditating in the morning before you go to work. You have those things on your calendar. Those are reminders for you, but also an opportunity for you to see, okay, well, what can you realistically accomplish if you want to find this better place for you in terms of the life-work integration? And
that is, I mean, that's just such a good idea to do that, because on your calendar you have your 100 appointments.
Yes.
And in between that time, and I know like just about every day, I'm going to plan my day to do A, B, C, and it's such and such a time.
Yes.
And then of course you get off track.
Yeah, which is fine. You just get back on track. You start over.
Right.
That's
you
good.
just go like, okay, now I know I was going to do that earlier. But something that simple can really keep us mindful.
Yeah. And I encourage people, particularly for folks that are dealing with the work-life, the quote-unquote work-life balance issue, one of the first things I would do with people is to say, okay, well, once we identify your personal priorities, let's put those on your calendar first. Okay. Right? You have to be able to pour into yourself first before you can pour into others.
Absolutely.
And what happens is we pour into everyone else first, we pour into the outside world first, we pour into our work first, and then we burn out. But if you pour into yourself first, it's impossible for you to burn out in that way. You know, if it requires yoga and meditation, if it requires spending time with the family, if it requires going hiking, whatever those things are, if you're prioritizing that and you're scheduling your work around that, then you've already built in the process by which you're actually renewing yourself.
And so let's say we are doing all this, and you know what? I'm looking at my schedule and I can't get 8 hours worth of sleep because I have to make this phone call before I go to bed, and I have to make this phone call when I first wake up.
Yes.
And how is that just a commitment, or we're trying to be balanced, but are we just saying, okay, this is my commitment and this is my goal and I'm going to put it on my calendar?
Yeah, part of it is about recognizing that life is about hard trade-offs, right?
Okay.
And so that means you have to exercise, your no muscle, and you're going to have to be able to say no. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable, and sometimes you're going to make people are going to not be okay with that. And I think you're going to have to be okay with the fact that people aren't going to be okay with that. So I think that's one aspect of it. I think sometimes we overcommit because we are afraid of saying no. We're afraid of what other people think. And going back to what we talked about in terms of fear, like I think we just have to acknowledge, okay, some people might not like the fact that I'm going to be leaving work a little bit earlier to make time for my kids or make time for my spouse, but they're just going to have to be okay with that. Some people are not going to be okay with the fact that I have to go to the doctor because I'm managing a condition or whatever it is, but that's you're going to have to be in a place where you're going to have to say, okay, well, this is the trade-off that I'm willing to make, and I'm willing to stand up for my life. I'm willing to stand up for that. So I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it in terms of the balance piece, balance doesn't mean that your schedule is so structured that you're doing the same thing the same way every day at the same time, right? So if you get less sleep one day, or like for me, like around this time of the year, and I think for a lot of people particularly that work in retail, that the holidays are a really busy time of the year.
Right.
You work more than you probably would many of the other times of the year. But if you know that, if you know how the seasons ebb and flow, you can actually plan for that. You can have a conversation with your family, with your friends, and say, you know what, this time of the year is really, really tough for me. Like, I'm not going to be able to go to happy hour. I'm not going to be able to make as many games as as I normally do. But when things sort of slow down again, in the spring, you can count me in. And I think, simple things, sort of just proactively knowing that, okay, well, that Thanksgiving and Christmas, for example, is the same day, every year, right? Right? We know, like, we can predict it.
Act like it's new, right?
You can go ahead and just plot your time off right now.
Right.
You don't have to wait until, next November to try to figure it out, and you're scrambling. You're like, oh my God, I've already committed to all these other things. Like, no, like, you can look now and say, hey, okay, I'm going to take a vacation, I'm going to take, Thanksgiving or Christmas off, or whatever the time off that you take, recognizing what we do have control over. Everything is not predictable, but some things are. Like, we know that Christmas is it's the same time every day. So if you know that either you take time off for Christmas, or if you know that you're in a situation where you actually have to work over the holidays, right? Because that's how that's part of how you make a living, then you can plan for that as well. Right.
And now you have these tools, and how can people reach out to you online, because they want to get the planners and the tools and all of that? We have a few more minutes.
Yes. So people can go to my website, mindfultechie.com. That's mindfultechie.com, mindfultechie.com, and they can sign up for the email list. That's the best way to sort of stay in the know about all the tools that are available. And the workbooks that you mentioned that we just walked through, all of those are free. Then I have other tools like the planner here that's available for folks that really walks people through the process of, so we walk through that 7-step framework. This is actually a tool that you can carry with you in your day-to-day that actually helps you to take that vision, take those priorities, and map it to your week and to your days.
Great. Yes. Miko, thank you so much for being on the Ed Brown Show. And we definitely have to plug in, go online. We all need Miko Whitlock. We all need his work. So thank you and happy holidays.